Every single day, your brain is playing detective dozens and dozens of times, and you probably don't even notice. It's this lightning-fast calculation that literally shapes how you understand everything. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that secret mental process. Okay, so take a look at this sentence. The father hit the son because he. Now, just finish that in your head. Who is he? Is it the father or is it the son? Just go with your first gut instinct. You got it? Okay, hang on to that thought. So that little moment of hesitation, that split-second decision you just made, well, that reveals this totally fascinating puzzle that's right at the heart of how we understand language. It's a tiny moment of ambiguity that our brains are just built to solve. Now, what's so interesting here is that this isn't some kind of grammar mistake or a badly written sentence. Nope. This is a completely natural part of how language works. A single pronoun like he could point back to more than one person, and our brains just figure it out. But how? Well, linguists actually have a name for this. They call it the anaphoric puzzle. And by breaking it down, we can start to decode how our minds make sense of this kind of ambiguity in like the blink of an eye. So let's get into the weeds just for a second. The official term is pronominal anaphoric ambiguity, which I know is a total mouthful. But all anaphora really means is referring back to something you already said. The puzzle is when a pronoun, like he, could refer back to two different people, how on earth do we choose? And believe it or not, the stakes are pretty high. Just look at these two interpretations side by side. If he is the father, the story is about an angry dad. But if he is the son, it's about a kid who is misbehaving. The entire meaning just pivots on that one tiny word. So let's look at our two suspects the way a linguist would. The noun that's further away from the pronoun, in this case, the father, is called the distal antecedent. Just think distal for distant. The one that's closer, the son, is the proximal antecedent. Proximal means near. So who does our brain pick? The near one or the far one? How in the world does your brain decide between them? Does it just, I don't know, flip a coin? Of course not. It's this incredibly sophisticated machine, and it searches for clues that are hidden in plain sight, specifically in those tiny little connecting words we use all the time. And this brings us to a really cool study by two researchers, Silva and Leite. They basically wanted to know if certain words, those conjunctions that join phrases together, could be the powerful clues our brains use to crack the case instantly. Their research question was actually beautiful in its simplicity. They asked, could a single connecting word, a word like but or therefore or because, could it systematically push our brain's interpretation one way or the other and solve the puzzle for us? And the answer, as it turns out, is a huge yes. The researchers basically uncovered what we can call a conjunction code, a set of rules our brains follow automatically. Let's dive into the evidence. All right, first up, what happens when you use what's called an adversative conjunction, a word that shows contrast, like but? For example, the father praised the son, but he, well, the results were just overwhelming. As you can see on the chart, people's brains jumped right to the closest noun, the proximal one, the son. It's like the word but focuses our attention on the last thing that was mentioned. But now, watch what happens when you swap that word out for a conclusive one, like therefore. The father praised the son, therefore he... Whoa, the pattern completely flips. All of a sudden, readers overwhelmingly chose the noun that was further away, the distal one, the father. The word therefore seems to point us back to the cause, the original person who started the action. So what about our original sentence, the one with because? Well, it turns out that explanative words like because just aren't very strong clues. The choices were split pretty much right down the middle, which honestly makes the super clear patterns we see for but and therefore even more striking. They are really powerful signals. And here is the real kicker. This study also measured how fast people made their choice. And the absolute fastest, most efficient clue was that conclusive conjunction. When people saw a word like therefore, their brains solved the puzzle in an average of just over 1.25 seconds. That is incredibly fast, almost instant. So what's really going on here? Well, this quote pretty much nails it. Words like but and therefore aren't just sitting there. They are actively creating expectations in our minds. Therefore gets us ready for a consequence of what the first person did. But prepares us for a contrast related to the second person. Our brains are literally predicting the meaning before we're even consciously aware of it. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit and talk about why this matters beyond just being a cool grammar puzzle. This is a window into the amazing efficiency of your brain and all the little shortcuts it uses. The big takeaway here is that these tiny little connecting words are doing some seriously heavy lifting for us. They're not just grammatical glue that holds sentences together. No way. They are cognitive signposts, these amazing shortcuts that guide our understanding and let us build meaning at an incredible speed. So let's just recap this whole conjunction code one more time. An adversative word like but, it points you to the closest noun, the proximal one. A conclusive word like therefore, it sends you to the furthest noun, the distal one. And an explanative word like because, well, it kind of leaves things ambiguous. This is the secret code your brain is using all day, every day. And this all points to something really fundamental about our minds. Our brains are not designed to waste energy. They are wired for efficiency. They're constantly on the lookout for these subtle patterns and clues in language that help us avoid confusion, cut down on our mental workload, and just process the world so much faster. It really makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, if words as simple as but and therefore have this much hidden power to guide our thoughts without us even realizing it, what other tiny words, what other little linguistic patterns are shaping the way you see the world every single day?